All right, and we're live. So, what we're going to be doing today is damage calculations, right? If you ever go into Pokemon Unite DB, you will find every Pokemon has. It shows you how damage is calculated, right? So, when you look at tackle, right? The damage 86% attack plus 8 times level minus 1 plus 100. What does that all mean, right? So it is based on the RSB calculation, right? That first number right here. Hi, Nathaniel.
Hi.
So that calculation is the first number. Hey, buddy, can you be quiet? Daddy's giving a class.
Oh.
Yeah, thanks.
I in class.
Yep, I'm teaching people stuff. So RSB, the first number is your rate, right? It is a percentage of your Pokemon's attack or special attack. Right now, this one is a special attack stat, so it would be 125% of Blastoise special attack. So at level 9, you go to bed?
Yep.
Love you. Mwah. Good night.
Kiss on my nose!
125% of their special attack, which is 190 at level 9. So, what would that be? That would be 237.5. That is 125% of 190, right? Plus 18 times whatever level you are, we're level 9, minus 1. So, it would be 18 times 8 in this case. 18 times 9 minus 1 is 8. 18 times 8 is 144. Right? And then the last number is the base, right? That is a set number. For Blastoise Surf, that number is 800. So you will always get 800. There's no modifying this number in the initial calculation. It is always going to be 800. So your rate plus your slider plus your base is going to equal the total damage before defense is taken into consideration. So that number right now at level 9, Blastoise hitting you with the Surf, it's going to do 1,181.5 damage. That's not the damage it's actually going to do because we have to take defense into consideration. So, oh look, 1,181. If you notice, when you're in Unite DB, you can actually click to show the value. You can take the slider, change the level, watch the stats change, and then when you click this little information button, it'll actually show you the value. Go to Blastoise, put him at level 9. Go down to Surf. Here's the RSB, rate plus slider plus base. Damage equals 1,181. We go back to our calculation, 1,181. Everything in Pokemon Unite is rounded down. They call it the floor. If you're ever looking into anything and you see the word floor, that just means it's rounded down. So, 1,181 damage before defense is taken into consideration. Now, if you're using a physical attack move, physical defense is going to be the defense stat that's used. If it's special attack move, special defense is going to be what calculates. So let's talk about defense calculations. Right, this is a very weird. It's a very weird calculation. So if you look up here, it says damage, and then I got this little down arrow. That means the damage is being rounded down times 600. So that's your first number. Whatever damage you thought you were doing, 1181, you multiply that by 600, and then you divide that number that you get by 600 plus either your defense or special defense stat, whichever one it is that you're doing, right? So we're still using that Blastoise Surf, the 1181.5 against another Blastoise at level 9. His special defense stat is 205. So when we calculate that data, the damage times 600, 1181 times 600 is 708,600. That is a huge number. Then you take the 600 base number plus the special defense in this case, which for Blastoise is 205, you get 805. So now 708,600 divided by 805 is 880.24, right? We're rounding that down to 880. So a level 9 Blastoise Surf with no other modifiers going against a level 9 Blastoise with a special defense of 205 with no other modifiers is going to deal 880 damage on that one move, right? That damage is going to hit the shields first. If you have 200 shield, you will take down the 200 point shield and do another 680 damage towards that Pokemon's overall health. Now, let's talk about another example I have. This is a level 8 Cramorant using Hurricane, right? So Hurricane, the rate, 120% of their special attack, right? That rate is going to end up being 339.6. The Slider, 11 times their level minus 1. That's going to equal 77. The base damage, 620. So the calculation is, the whole calculation in here, that total damage is going to be 1036.6. If you're fighting a Pokemon with 250 defense, and I put that number in here for a reason, every single farm in the game has 731 defense. I'm sorry, 250 defense. Every farm in the game has 250 defense. I don't care if it's a Baltoy or Rayquaza, it's got 250 defense. So if you're doing damage calculations, that's the number you need to use. 250 defense, 250 special defense, it's all the same. If you want to do your own damage calculations, that's the number you use for farms, right? So I made this fun little spreadsheet here, and I know this is very, very busy, right? But if you pick a level on this Cramorant, we picked level 8, do all the damage calculations, which you'll find 1036, all the damage calculations, how much damage are you actually going to do, right? And that's where I got all my numbers. I literally took all of the calculations, all of the attack, special attack, doesn't matter. Every single move that it's got, except its beginner moves because I'm lazy. I can pick boosts, whatever, every single boost that modifies your attack, your defense. I'm sorry, your attack or special defense. You can change them, and it'll modify everything. But for now, I've got items on that do not change the special attack. So, I've got a level 8 Cramorant doing Hurricane. It's supposed to deal 1,036 damage to if there's no defense or if there's no special defense in there, and if it's a piece of farm, it should deal 731. Let's see. So this, if you ever want to see how much damage you're doing and you go into the practice mode, you can hit these dolls. These dolls, they act as if they are opponents, right? Not farm. But the difference between this doll, the farm, and your opponent, these dolls do not have any defense whatsoever. So it is getting the full damage, the full 1036 damage when you hit it. And that's exactly what the damage modifier is going to show. If we go back into here, we're going to go ahead, we're going to go pick a cram. We're going to make him level 8. And we're going to do a Hurricane. 1036 damage. That is exactly what you should see right here. 1036 damage to an opponent with exactly 0 defense, right? Now, let's hit something that's got 250 defense, right? All the modifiers in there, 731. I just hit that Excelgor, whatever the hell it's called. Boom, 731 damage because all of those calculations took into place. So, if you notice, right, there are not many Pokemon that have 600 defense, though there are some that can, and there's some items. defense does not make as much of a difference as actually having more HP. If you want to be a better defender, if you want to be bulkier, do not boost your defense. Boost your actual HP. Because if we go back and we look at the modifiers, right? It's multiplying attack and adding defense on either side of this division. Boost your health. Do not boost your defense. So that's it, right? That's the basics, right? The basics are, hey, here's your modifiers, here's your calculations. The biggest thing some of you are going to want to know is like, hey, should I stack, right? Should I stack? Well, I don't know. Should you? If you're using Blastoise, right? Let's go back to Blastoise. I've got a Blastoise. I'm stacking. I want to get an extra 110 or 120 special attack, and I hit him with a Surf, right? That's 125% of my special attack, right? But what's my special attack right now at level 9? 190. So if I'm boosting that 190 to about 300, I'm doing 125 special attack. Hey, maybe that'll be good, right? But most of that damage is coming from this 800 right here. So do I really need to stack? But then let's look at another Pokemon. Where did he go? Let's look at Cinderace, right? Here's a really good example. Should you stack, right? Which moveset are you playing? Are you playing Pyro Ball or are you playing Blaze King, right? If you're playing Pyro Ball and your rate is 345% of your attack, that extra 100, around 100 attack you get for fully stacking is going to be another 345 damage every time you do it, right? You'll still get the 820. The levels get big. This is a very big move. Now what about Blaze Kick, right? It's only 48% of the attack. So you boost your thing by 100. You boost your attack stat by 100, but you're only getting 48% of that if you go Blaze Kick. So, if you're playing Pyro Ball, I would recommend stacking. If you're playing Blaze Kick, I would not recommend stacking. It just doesn't make sense if you're only doing 48% on your damage rate. All right, a couple things to know. There's additional effects in this game. So, Razor Claw, Choice Specs, some passives. There's extra damage that gets calculated, right? So, Razor Claw. When you hit a Pokemon with a move, your next attack will do X amount of damage, blah, 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 blah. Same thing with Choice Specs, right? Choice Specs, after you use a move, or when you use a move, you'll hit for extra damage. So, Choice Specs deals 40% of your special attack plus an extra 60 damage. So if you're with Blastoise, doesn't matter which move you hit with, you're going to do 40% of your 190 special attack, that's 76 damage, right? Plus 60, 136. This is a separate instance of damage. It is not added to the damage that you hit, whether it was Surf, doesn't matter. This is a separate instant of damage that Choice Specs is dealing, not your move. So you'll hit them both at the same time, but it's two different pieces of damage. This damage also takes special defense into account. If it's Razor Claw, it'll take defense into account. It gets calculated completely separately, so it's still unmodified attack times 600 divided by 600 times 600 plus whatever the defense of that Pokemon is. Again, I put 250 in there only because that's the defense stat of every single farm in there. So 81,600 divided by 850. So that is 96 damage 96 damage separate when you're hitting with choice specs. So, yeah. Yeah, and so some things there's things that take percent damage, right? And you know what? I didn't even get into that in here, but no, that's a good one. I'll save that to the end because that's another additional effect that we haven't that I don't have in here, but it's really good to know. But no, so extra damage, right? Extra damage from these things are calculated as separate damage, right? Slick Spoon. Slick Spoon is a very interesting thing because it you're gonna stack with A9 now? Nice. I would not stack with A9 because A9's special attack stat I think is 1,009 at level 15. Like adding another 100 to that, like the percentage just doesn't make sense to me. Anyways, Slick Spoon. Slick Spoon ignores 17%. Obviously, if it's level 20 or not. We've got it ignores 17% of special defense, right? Not the entire calculation, right? Because if we look at this half of the calculation, it's 600 plus whatever whatever the special defense stat is. So if we're fighting farm, right, it's supposed to be 250, but if you take 17% of that away, it's only 207.5, not 250. So instead of I'm sorry. Instead of this 850 we have here, now it's 807.5, right? So instead of 96 damage, you're doing 101, right? It's only about a 5% increase in damage, but if you look at, if you're maxed out on green emblems, you're only getting a 4% increase. So that one item alone is still better than maxing out your green items. So, or your green emblems. Other additional effects. So, true damage, right? And there's Pokemon like Tyranitar that deal true damage, right? If you see the word true damage has nothing to do with defense. It has nothing to do with defense. It literally just does damage to the Pokemon and ignores shields, right? So if you have a shield on, vast majority of the time, say I've got 1,000 HP and a 500 HP shield, it's going to do damage to the shield first and then the Pokemon's health, right? Damage reduction, right? Damage reduction happens after the damage is calculated. So, let's talk about that choice specs damage that Blastoise was doing, right? At the end of the day, he's doing 96 damage. Say you're a Ninetales playing Aurora Veil, and like Nee said, he's probably going to be stacking. He's playing Aurora Veil. If any one of you or your teammates inside the Aurora Veil has 35% damage reduction while you're in there. So you literally take that damage, 96, right? And then minus 35% of that, which is 33.6, round it down, you're only taking 62 damage of that 96 while you're in there. That happens after the full damage calculation, after defense is taken into an account, then the damage reduction happens on the it's the very last step. So if the other thing about damage reduction, it's not multiplicative, it is additive. So if you've got 35% damage reduction from Aurora Veil and you're running a Giga Drain Venusaur, which also takes 35% damage reduction, that's set. If that Venusaur is doing Giga Drain while it's inside a Ninetales Aurora Veil, it is taking 70% reduced damage because you just add the numbers together. There's no weird multiplication. It's like, hey, 35 plus 35, that's 70. So 70% of 96 is probably 68. If I'm just doing public math in my head, that's That's how it works. Right. Lastly, right, other modifiers. When you are doing, when you're putting emblems on, there's two separate things that can happen, right? If you are stacking a color that's going to increase your attack or special attack, that is a percent increase. But never forget that these equipped stats, right? With the emblems I have here, I've added 6 to my special attack right as the game starts, right? It's going to be whatever my special attack stat is, I'm going to have 6 on top of that no matter what. If my special attack stat is 100, it's 106. If it's 500, it's 506. If it's 800, it's 806. Now, whatever that base stat is, it's going to be increased by 4%, and then damage calculation is going to happen. All right, so that was supposed to be the last slide of the class, but I know, Zen, you were talking about, what do you call it? Uh-huh. Yeah. So so if you look at if you look at what Azumarill does, right? Azumarill has a very interesting a very interesting passive, right? So every time it hits a single Pokemon, it always crits. It always crits, it always crits, it always crits. So now it's dealing almost double the damage that it would normally do. So if you are increasing its overall damage, right? Azumarill has a very low max. Azumarill has a very low maximum attack stat for an attack-based Pokemon, especially one that's not a defender, right? So 461. If you fully stack with that, that's another, I believe, 90, right? You're almost increasing his attack stat by a full 20% when you do that. So now when you double that, it's huge, right? So let's talk about Water Pulse, right? So Water Pulse is a good one to stack on because it's 87%, right? Play Rough is more of a, I want to get in and stun, right? So I wouldn't really stack just for Play Rough. Water Pulse I would, but the second moves, or the move twos, or whatever you want to call it, Whirlpool, right? Whirlpool is not just damaging, but it's healing the Pokemon every time it does it. So the more damage you're doing, the more healing you're doing, the more your attack stat, the higher your attack stat. It's doubly important for Azumarill, right? And then when you get to level 10, it's even more healing. So you want your Azumarill's more of a special case, but if you look at Aqua Tail, right, the boosted long range, that's a huge damage right there. You hit him with the long range on a boosted attack, 244. Anytime you have a big rate, or like the first number, like, hey, what's the percentage of attack or percentage of special attack? The higher this is, the more you might want to think about stacking. Now, stacking's not the end all be all, but let's look at another Pokemon. Yay, my favorite. Yeah, let's look at Dragonite, right? So Dragonite's got 2 moves. It's got Outrage, right? Its boosted attacks are 150. I would stack on that. But then you look at, you're doing almost 300% attack every time it hits a Hyper Beam. Plus, and here's the big one, right? Here's what we didn't talk about: additional damage based on their max HP, right? So let's build a slide here, right? Because I totally forgot about this whole thing, right? So, there's max HP, remaining HP, right? And what's the other one? Max HP, remaining HP, and it's not remaining HP. It's what's the execute, right? Yeah. No. Yeah. So there's multiple execute styles too, right? Where are you at, Pika? Missing HP. Right. That's what it is, right? So there's three different. So there's three different types of extra damage based on these things, right? So if the max HP, let's just say it's 1,000 for each of these, right? If it's say 10% of max HP, 10% of remaining HP. Hey, I don't need that dash. And then 10%, and these are not real calculations, right, of remaining HP, right? So if all three of these Pokemon are sitting at, 800 out of 1,000 HP, right, their max HP, this one's going to do 100 damage because it's 10% of their max HP. It doesn't care about the 800. It's 10% of 1,000. That's 100. So remaining HP, right? 10% of the remaining HP, he's going to do 80 extra damage, right? 10% of missing HP, it's going to do 20 extra damage, right? If you change this number, right? If you're doing, if you're shooting an Electro Ball, right, at somebody who's almost at full health, you're not going to do that much extra damage, right? If you shoot an Electro Ball at someone who's very weak, now these numbers flip, right? The remaining HP person is going to do a little bit of damage. The missing HP person is going to do a lot more damage. So always look at your Pokemon and see if they're doing anything like these additional effects, like, hey, also deals an additional X amount to what, right? If it's max HP, fire away, right? Just fire away. So if you're playing Dragonite, it's dealing extra damage based on their max HP, just fire away, right? If it's remaining HP, yeah, so these ones are what I consider your execute Pokemon, right? If you look at Electro Ball, right? Damaging and paralyzing, blah blah blah, deals bonus damage based on missing HP, right? So 6% of the missing HP. So the lower the Pokemon, the lower the Pokemon's damage is, the more it does. That's why Electro Ball is such a good move, and you can fire them off every 5 seconds, and it's a sure hit, just nasty, right? Let's go back to Dragonite. Yeah. So where you at, homie? So look at it. Oh, yeah. I will get to that here in a second, right? Because this is part of this conversation. So, it deals max HP damage is 0, 5, 10, or 20% of their max HP, depending on what stage you're at. If you're at stage 3, if you've gotten three Dragon Dances off, not only are you hitting them for 300 damage plus 560, 300%. Let's just do a level 9, right? So attack stats 314 times 300. You're doing like You're doing 1603 damage plus 1/5 of their total health. 1/5 of their total health. That is bananas, right? That's bananas. You hit someone with that, right? Because it's based on max HP. That is not going to change. That is not going to change, right? So here's when we're talking about ripping though. Let's look at muscle band, right? So muscle band, say it's at least level 20, right? It deals an additional 3% of the target's remaining HP every time you use a basic attack. Doesn't matter if it's special attack based, doesn't matter if it's physical attack based, and I know there's only 3 Pokemon in the game right now that their regular basic attacks, not their boosted, but their regular basic attacks don't use physical attack. But it doesn't matter. Every auto attack is 3% of their remaining HP. Capped at 360 damage, but this is extra damage every time. So when you're talking about things that can rip, you're talking about your Cinderaces, you're talking about your Decidueyes, you're talking about your Garchomps, things that can just haul off and just boom, 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 and hit them. It's 3% of their remaining HP every single time. So it doesn't matter what damage you're doing another instance of damage every single attack. And that's why the things get ripped down so fast. So if you've got a good combination of something that can rip it, right? Because this is remaining HP, right? So the remaining HP guy, when the number starts getting lower, it starts dealing less damage, right? But then you have another one on you've got a Decidueye ripping. The lower their HP gets, the less damage it's doing because it's based on remaining HP. But then you have a Pikachu come in and just finish him off, right? Mixing and matching these things in game are always going to be highly effective. So I'm just going to leave it there for now. Is anyone on that has any questions? I think Nee had a question. Let me go check out the chat here in a second. When picking movesets, does some do better against Squishy and some do thickums, like Thunderbolt versus Electro Ball? So it depends, right? Some do better against Squishy and some against thickums.
The Dodrio, you're probably gonna want to use like Electro Ball because like you're gonna guarantee a hit, right? Because otherwise they just move out of your range of hit with the Thunder.
Yeah, sure hits are amazing. I would say it specifically to his question. I mean, his question was when picking movesets, do some do better against Squishy and some better against thickums, right? So if I was going after a thickum, I would want something that does max HP and remaining HP, right? The missing HP, if you can't get the thickum down, you want to rip them down. Something with a muscle band or anything that takes extra HP away is going to be great. But at the end, if you're having a hard time, like a Goodra or a Tree, right? That thing gets down to like 5% health and all of a sudden it heals. Yeah, you might want a nice execute move that's either a max HP move or a missing HP move. Thunderbolt's good because Thunderbolt just deals constant damage and slows them, but that's just more of a consistent damage. If they got really good healers around them, maybe Electro Ball's the way and you just need to take them out. But yeah, a lot of it not only has to do with the individual Pokemon that you're picking, it has to do with the comp around you, right? Because if you don't want them healing, does anyone on your team have a cursed item? There's a lot that goes into that. So just making sure that if you're going in and you're going to 5-stack, make sure all of these additional effects are taken into play. Make sure that you're looking at, hey, how much damage do I actually think I should be doing, and how do we finish them off and send them back to their frickin' respawn point? That's those are the things that you should be looking at when it comes to damage. This conversation has nothing to do with CC, slowing effects, any of that. This is literally just how damage is calculated. So, with that, I know it's time for our squad to get on and practice. I'm about 20 minutes over what I wanted to do, but I really hope this was educational. I really hope this was helpful. If anyone has side questions, just go ahead and hit me up, and then and I'm posting this on YouTube for a reason. So if y'all need to watch this later, just go ahead.
Like, comment, subscribe.
Oh yeah, like and subscribe and all those other YouTube things I'm supposed to say. Yeah, things then.
Share
All
with your friends.
Later.